But I've got something to settle with you.
To the right is a young Clark Gable in his first starring role as the villain in a mediocre western called The Painted Desert, which he got due to a play the year before on Broadway called The Last Mile, which a critic wrote, young, vigorous, and brutally masculine. This would be the first domino of many to fall in the years to come for Clark Gable, and how his masculine image would follow him up until his untimely death in 1960.
I did everything. Wagons, mine and all. And I'd do it again. If you or any other man come between me and what I want.
When we think of Clark Gable, you probably think of a big, strong, masculine man and Gone with the Wind. But hold that thought, we'll get there in a minute. The reason we think of Clark Gable the way we do today is partly due to his acting coach, Josephine Dillon, who helped him lower his voice, have better posture, how to do his hair, and even paid for his teeth to be fixed. He moved to Hollywood in 1924 at 23 years old and was a background actor in some silent films. Then he went to Houston for stage for a year, from 1927 to 1928. Then he moved to New York, did a few plays there, and that's when he was offered a contract with Path Pictures and was cast in The Painted Desert. The company went bankrupt, and that's when everything started to roll for Clark Gable. He signed a contract at MGM, then was cast as a villain again in The Night Nurse. The role was originally for James Cagney, but he shot to stardom in The Public Enemy. Clark also in that year auditioned for the lead role in the gangster movie Little Caesar, which the role went to Edward G. Robinson.
Little Caesar, huh?
Yeah, sure.
His ears are too big and he looks like an ape, said Warner Bros. Executive Daryl F. Zanuck. After he didn't land the role in Little Caesar, Irving Thalberg signed him for $650 a week, which in today's money is $9,979.21. Not bad, Clark. Not bad at all. Irving Thalberg was a powerhouse in that time and was known as the Wonder Boy because he had an acute eye to get production staff, picking out his hit scripts, signing star actors, and making hit movies. The pieces finally started coming together for Clark. The time had come for his first starring role when Joan Crawford asked for him personally in the movie Dance Fool Dance. Louis B. Mayer recognized the chemistry they both had, and they starred together in 7 more movies throughout the years. He then was in a movie called A Free Soul, and the rest is history. His fan mail increased and MGM took notice. The Hollywood Reporter wrote, "A star in the making has been made. One that to our reckoning will outdraw every other star. Never have we seen audiences work themselves into such enthusiasm as when Clark Gable walks on the screen." That year, the studio had him make movie after movie. He made an astonishing 13 movies in 1931, and if you look at the rest of his career, the movies drop dramatically each year. He had a romantic affair with Joan Crawford, which almost ended his and her MGM acting days. They were kept apart when he then took interest in Marion Davies. Later on, due to losing the role of Tarzan to Johnny Weissmuller, yeah, can't see Clark Gable doing that.
No, I don't think I will.
This led him to take on more romantic roles, such as Red Dust with Jean Harlow, where one scene in the movie took audiences by storm.
Come here.
Hey,
And you always shut your face off that way?
well, I like that.
He made 2 more romances, Men in White and Hold Your Man. He was being paid $2,000 a week at MGM and no projects at the time for Clark, which $2,000 in today's money is $38,267.01. So Louis B. Mayer, as a punishment for Clark having romantic affairs, sent him to Columbia for $2,500 a week, which in today's money is $47,833.77. Doesn't seem like a bad punishment to me. He was then cast in a little romantic comedy called It Happened One Night with Claudia Colbert. If you know anything about the film, it was a big hit. This is the movie that cemented him in history as the romantic lead that we know and love today. He was more soft around the edges and down to earth. His stardom was bigger than ever. He was recognized by everyone. Girls wanted him and men wanted to be him. Clark Gable was so influential and men wanted to be him so bad that there's a scene in the movie where he takes his shirt off and he's not wearing an undershirt. After the movie came out, the sales of undershirts went down drastically overnight. The film won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writing, Best Actress, and you got it, Best Actor.
You mind if I try?
You? Don't make me laugh.
Oh, you're such a smart Alex. Nobody knows anything but you. I'll stop a car and I won't use my thumb.
What are you going to do?
The system on my own.
It's the first movie in history to win 5 Academy Awards. The budget was $325,000. In today's money, that's $6,218,389.93. What it made at the box office was $2,500,000. In today's money, that is $47,833,768.66. It was kind of a big deal. After the success of It Happened One Night, he went back to MGM, where he then proceeded to make 17 more films until Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is referred as to one of the greatest movies ever made. Either you agree with it or not, you can't deny that it's an epic. With a runtime of over 3 hours and some beautiful shots, it will definitely remain in history as one of the greats. Gary Cooper originally turned down the role and said, "Gone with the Wind is going to be the biggest flop in Hollywood history. I'm glad it'll be Clark Gable who's falling flat on his nose, not me." It may come as a surprise that Clark Gable wasn't actually very interested in the role in the beginning. Vivien Leigh bought him a copy of the book and he refused to read it for a long time.
Has the war started?
To film the epic fire scene, it took up to 20 Hollywood sets to burn, such as the Great Wall set from King Kong. After finishing production and editing the movie, the final cut came out to be 20,000 feet long of film. That is a long, long movie. The infamous line,
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
was almost not his final line. The Association Productions Code for Hollywood wanted, "My dear, frankly, I don't care." But the director Selznick pushed and pushed for it, and eventually they let the line in. When the film opened in Atlanta, the mayor had 3 days of parties and parades, and the tickets reached up to $200 a head in 1939's money. Gone with the Wind also made history, having Hayley McDaniel, the first African American to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, but unfortunately she was forced to sit at a separate table in the back. When the film opened in Atlanta, Georgia, Clark actually boycotted the film because Hayley McDaniel and Butterfly McQueen were not allowed to attend. He ended up going, and it is reported that Hayley McDaniel begged him to go. They were friends for the rest of their lives. The budget for the movie was $3.85 million, which in today's money, that's $73,664,003.73. At the box office, it made a whopping $390 million, which in today's money, that's $7,462,067,910.45. It's hard to think of Clark Gable and not connect the next thought to his iconic character, Rhett Butler. Talking about the rest of his life, it's hard not to talk about his third wife, Carole Lombard, which third time was the charm for Clark Gable. During the time that they spent together was reportedly the happiest he had ever been. Due to the paychecks from Gone with the Wind, he was able to have an expensive second divorce with Rhea Langham. While filming Gone with the Wind, he divorced Rhea and proposed to Carole Lombard just 13 days later on set. They were married in Kingman, Arizona, fitting, and had a nice honeymoon in Arizona also. Sadly, just 3 years later, on January 16, 1942, with her mother and Otto Winkler, who had been Clark's best man at their wedding, died on a plane crash, killing all 22 passengers on board. After burying her, a month later he returned to filming the movie Somewhere I'll Find You. It was reported that when he returned, he had lost up to 20 pounds. He continued acting in 27 more films and would get married 2 more times down the road. The movie was number 8 at the box office. After completing the movie Somewhere I'll Find You, he joined the Army Air Force to fight the Nazis in the ongoing Second World War. Obviously, the studios were reluctant to have him go off to war, but his mind was already set on it. He joined, and he did go on missions with the 351st Bomb Group. He went on 5 combat missions where his aircraft was damaged by flak and damaged by fighters, which stopped one of the engines and messed up a stabilizer. On one of the missions, 1 of the men were killed and 2 were wounded. Clark Gable had a flak almost hitting him in the head and nearly killing him. In November 1943, he came back to edit his movie that they filmed overseas. He was awarded 6 medals and qualified to earn his wings. When he returned to the U.S., he rested at his ranch. The next chapter of his life was to continue making movies. In 1945, he made the movie Adventure with Virginia Gray. It made $5 million at the box office but was considered a flop. He continued to make movie after movie, averaging 2 movies a year for the rest of his life. He left MGM in 1957, and he made his next 2 movies with 20th Century Fox. In 1958 to 1960, he made 2 more movies, and his second one was his last Technicolor movie that he would appear in. It was called It Started in Naples. He gained weight, weighing up to 230 pounds due to pasta and a leading role, and now he was surrounded by great food in Italy, since that's where they filmed. In 1960, he started filming a movie called The Misfits, written by Arthur Miller and starring Clark Gable, Marilyn Monroe, Eli Wallach, Montgomery Clift, and last but certainly not least, Thelma Ritter. The role he took on was a demanding one for his age. He did all his stunts and lost as much weight as he possibly could. His character is an aged-out cowboy, but still young in the heart and young enough for the ladies. If you're into classic movies, I highly recommend watching it. It can get a tad slow, and it is a little too long for my taste, but you can't beat the powerhouse of a cast and the history behind it. It was Clark Gable's last film and Marilyn Monroe's last completed film. She was supposed to be Holly in Breakfast at Tiffany's, but that's a whole other video I'll have to do sometime. It's reported that Clark had a tough time filming, partly due to Marilyn's method acting and her addiction with painkillers bubbling to the surface during production. It was reported that the focus puller couldn't focus on her eyes because they were too foggy or bloodshot and noticeable. She would also do take after take until her acting teacher would approve upon the scene, which to Clark Gable was a lot to handle as being an actor before method, and just showing up, knowing his lines, and getting it right. He would get so angry and upset waiting around that he would have to entertain himself, but he never let it show. It was the last day of filming and it was on a Friday. They had a few more shots left to film, and the film would be completely finished. But it was 5 p.m. in the contract, and it had Clark working from 9 to 5. But Clark decided to do the last shots to end the film instead of having the crew and himself wait through the weekend and film them Monday. That Sunday, he passed away from 2 heart attacks. He was fortunate enough to see a rough cut up until that point because they were editing the film while production was going on. Watching the movie, you can't help but feel an eeriness and ghost-like feeling knowing that 2 of the stars would be dead within 2 years apart. It was reported that he was smoking 3 packs of cigarette a day and drinking heavily at night. The legacy that Clark Gable left behind him is a hard one to attain and a hard one to beat. When he walks on the screen, you can't help but just watch him. He was known as being a kind man and being a gentleman. His career lasted over 3 decades, and his presence within the movie business is still as strong as the day he left. Clark Gable was truly one of a kind, and is known as the King of Hollywood.